Assalamu alaikum everyone and welcome to the first video of Python learning. Well, without any delay, let's see what we are going to witness today in the first video. Well, today we are going to see the introduction of Python. We are going to see its basic history and the current status. We are also going to run some of its basic programs. We are also going to get familiar with Python being used as a calculator. And at the last, we are going to discuss a swapping case using Python code. Well, without any delay, let's start. So, what is Python? Well, Python nowadays is considered to be the most popular language, and it is only due to its easy syntax and versatile nature. Well, Python was released even before Java in 1991 and is considered to be an easy teaching language. Python also supports object oriented programming, which means it is a great approach towards developing applications. Moving towards its history and current status. Well, as discussed before, Python was released even before Java in 1991 and approximately 30 years ago, and it has quite a rich history. Python is considered nowadays to be the fastest growing programming language, and it is due to its dynamic nature. Now, moving towards some of its best IDs. Well, some of the IDs include PyCharm, VS Code, Atom, and Spider. Well, I prefer PyCharm over the rest of the softwares, and it is only due to its great built-in features, and also PyCharm is easy to install on your device as compared to other softwares. Moving towards the coding area, here we are going to see the basic syntax of Python. Well, what do you think a syntax basically means? Well, syntax is a recipe of code and the functions and the variables acting as its important ingredients. Well, these ingredients help or command the code to instruct the computer to perform specific functions. Well, now moving to let's see the syntax. Well, the syntax is quite simple, which is print, round brackets, and including double or single inverted commas. Well, here the point we noted is that Python is not sensitive in case of double or single inverted commas. It is only sensitive in case of space, which we are going to witness in our coming videos. Now we are going to see how we can get information from the user and write a code related to it. Well, without any delay, let's move towards the coding area. Well, welcome towards our coding area, which is PyCharm. Well, first of all, let me tell you how to create a project inside it. Well, move towards File, and here you can see the New Project option. Here you can create a new project by defining your location and create option. Well, I have already created one for you. Let's start writing our code. Well, first of all, let us try to write the basic syntax and run it in our coding form. Print. Let's write hello world, which is quite basic code. Now let's run it. You can even use the run option over here, run tab over here, run main option, or you can even simply press the run button over here. And here you go. Here is the first code saying hello world, and the location you have specified while creating your new project is also indicated over here. Now let's move towards our second code, which is of getting information from user. Here let me introduce it first with the comments point. Well, in Python we simply use hashtag to write our comment, and if your comment is more than one line, then you use three then you use it's getting in it. Yes, here it is. Three times inverted commas, double inverted commas, in order to get your comment written. And here you can see it's written like this. Whatever you want to write, you can even write in it. Now let's write our second code, which is getting information from user. Okay. Now, first of all, as the name indicates, getting information from user. First of all, the user will provide us some information related to the code we have to run. So now let's suppose we have a variable name, which is name, and let's say the name is Alex, or you can even choose any name. Now let's print it. Well, first of all, I have to. Okay, no, it's not a problem. Okay, now let's print it, and here I'm going to write thank you. You can even write whatever you want. Thank you. It's just an example for you in order to you get similar with this code. Okay, here we are. Thank you. Now here you have to see. Well, we have defined a variable over here. We need not to write Alex again. We are only going to use that variable, storing our information named Alex plus name, and let's run it. Here you go. We have thank you Alex. Well, you can provide some space over here in order to get proper code. Well, here it is. Thank you Alex. Well, the thing you have to notice over here is that you are using double inverted commas for thank you, which is the input, and not for the variable. Well, when we are going to discuss variable case in our next coming videos, we are going to see why we don't use double inverted commas or even single inverted commas in case of a variable. Well, I think the point is now much clear. Well, what do you mean by getting information from user? Here the user has provided us with a name, or you can say a variable over here, and then you have printed it and then you have printed only the output and using the variable which the user has given to us, and we have got our output which was required. Well, we saw how Python can be calculated by writing an easy code for it in our coding area. Well, you know what? You can even use two to three, even four, five variables regarding it to perform our calculation. It doesn't matter how many variables you are taking, nor does it matter how much uh, functions do you want your calculator to be performed. But in my case, I have taken some basic operations for each and every one of you to understand it quite easily. Well, now let's move further and see your last case, which was supposed to be our swapping case. Well, this is something very interesting we are going to see and witness today regarding our Python coding. Well, what do you think basically swapping means? Well, let me tell you by moving towards our coding area. Well, as seen in a coding area, what does basically getting information from user means? Now let's move towards something interesting. Well, do you know what? We're going to now get familiar with this thing named Python can be your calculator. Well, this is something very interesting and quite simple, which we have learned till now. So now let's move again towards the coding area and see how Python can be used as a calculator. So now let's move on. Well, now let's see how our Python can be used to perform function for us as our calculator. Let's say let us first define two or three variables. let's say A is 17, B is even 43. Okay, so now let's see how Python can be used as a calculator. Let's write print, and here we are going to write the commands which we want our calculator to perform, such as A plus B. We want addition, we want subtraction, A minus B. We even want multiplication to be performed from a simple calculator. And now let's see one more thing, which is quite interesting. If we want our calculator to take power of a variable, well, what would be the command of it? It would be, let's say we want the power of A. Now we are going to use double steric in this case and write the power which we want to take, which is, let's say we are going to take power 6, and now let's even print it. So here you have your output, and you know what, now you can see Python calculating and doing sum for you, even addition, subtraction, multiplication, and even taking the power for you. Well, isn't it quite interesting? Well, we saw how Python can be calculated by writing an easy code for it in our coding area. Well, you know what? You can even use 2 to 3, even 4, 5 variables regarding it to perform our calculation. It doesn't matter how many variables you are taking, nor does it matter how much uh, functions do you want your calculator to be performed. But in my case, I have taken some basic operations for each and every one of you to understand it quite easily. Well, now let's move further and see your last case, which was supposed to be our swapping case. Well, this is something very interesting we are going to see and witness today regarding our Python coding. Well, what do you think basically swapping means? Well, let me tell you by moving towards our coding area. Well, welcome back again to our coding area. Well, now we are going to see something interesting. Well, as told you before, what is swapping case? Now let's see what we are going to see in our swapping case. Here I am going to discuss two types of cases regarding swapping case. One case would be longer than the other one. Without any ado, let's start. Let's say this would be the case 1. Okay, so basically swapping means changing of values of different variables, such as, let's say I have a variable A which is of 18, which is having number 18, B which is having let's say 78, quite big number. Well, now let's see how does this work. Let's say A is equals to A plus B. Here we are going to make some condition so that we can easily at the end get the response that we are going to try. B is equals to uh, B is equals to A minus B. Now let's say that A is also equals to A minus B, because we are swapping, so that's why I have written it like this, that A is A plus, first of all A is A plus B, then A is A minus B. Okay, now let's see what happens when we print out both of these variables, A and print B. Let's see what happens when we are going to print it. So here we have the output, which is 78 and 18. Let me first of all make these ones comment so that you don't get mixed up while writing it. Over here, yes, here you go. Well, now let's again run it, and now let's see. Yep, here we have it. So A is now given the value of 78 and B is given the value of 18. Well, now you are going to understand why. First of all, I declared A is equals to A plus B, and then B is declaring as A minus B, and then I again declared A is equals to A minus B. Well, that's because when first of all I declared A is equals to A plus B and B is equals to A minus B. It was because I was giving some defined value to each of the variables. But lastly, as we are discussing swapping case, I defined the value which was previously defined to B in order to swap the values of our variables defined before. Here you can see A is now given the value of 78, which was supposed to be of B, and B is given the value of 18. Now let's consider another case, the same with the same values, but you know what, with less coding lines. Well, now let me define over here. Let me comment it out for you so that you don't get mixed up. Okay, let me define or comment the whole one. Okay, now let's say A is equals to 13 and B is equals to 38. Now we are going to use our knowledge, or you can say our intelligence over here, and basically see how we can use a single line code and do the same operation as done in the case 1. Now let's say A comma B, which are the two variables defined before. We are not going to define over here some operations to it. Rather, we are going to say A comma B is equals to B comma A. So now let's see how does Python deals with this code, and what would be our output. Simply, now let's print A and print B, as these both are different values. So we are going to print A and print B separately. Now let's see what happens when you print them out. Well, here you go. Here you can see that using a single code of line, we have done the same thing which we were doing in the case 1. Well, here you can see we have used our simple knowledge, which is A comma B is equals to B comma A, which here we are defining A as B and B as A by using a simple line of code. Well, that's how easy it is to use Python. Even if you are not familiar with any other programming language and you are here first time for learning Python, well, you are at the right place then, because Python is such a similar and basic language that you can even learn it without having any information regarding any other programming language. Well, I hope that you found the swapping case quite interesting, and I hope that it would make your concepts quite clear regarding Python code. Well, that's all from my side till today. In our first video, we basically saw some basics regarding Python. We got familiar with what is Python, some of its history and basic code lines. Well, we also saw some important things such as Python as a calculator and swapping case. Well, Python is such Python or regardless Python, programming is such a thing which requires more and more practice, and without practice you can never say you are an expert in coding. Well, try solving problems regarding these cases which we have learned today, and you will enjoy learning Python. So basically, while learning any programming language, all you need is and practice, and some of your interest too, so that you can get more and more ahead of what the world is recently now doing. So that's all from my side. I hope you liked the video, and I hope you are now getting some of the information, not all of it, obviously. No, some of the information regarding what is Python. You are going to get some interest regarding Python. Well, see you in the next video. And in the next video, we are going to discuss the variable expressions regarding Python. The next video is going to be quite interesting regarding it. Well, see you over there. Till then, Allah Hafiz.